Ryan.
Hi. Hello, Rachel.
How are you?
I'm here, so I am
We
here.
made it!
But we managed to crawl to the finish line. But we are here, Rachel, and I am excited to talk to you at least. That's something.
Aw, thank you. I'm excited to talk to you too.
There we are. We found out how Rachel is doing overall, and we are back to talk about some television that we have consumed here on Podcast, a podcast that's named after quite an amazing line of dialogue from Star Trek Discovery that inspired us to podcast. But we don't have all the time in the world to regale everyone about the yum yum moment from Star Trek Discovery because we have something far more pressing, something that needs to be addressed and covered, and that's what we're doing. And what exactly is that, Rachel? What are we here to chat about?
We are chatting about the 4th season of The Expanse. This is our recap. We just finished our coverage going episode by episode, and now we're going to take a look at it as a whole and as part of the
tapestry of things that we've watched even, and the individual episodes, the highs, the lows, the middle points, and where will we be going from here? This is our first time watch of The Expanse, isn't that right?
Yeah, it is.
First time experience. We have not seen this series before, and we are podcasting our first time with it. And obviously, if you're listening to this, this is the furthest we have gotten, unless you're hearing this on the main feed, because we actually release these episodes somewhere else first. Isn't that correct, Rachel?
It's Patreon. I gave them a second of thinking time.
No, we actually release it on MySpace first. You people should go to MySpace. It's really popping off there. Tom is our biggest fan. He's always clacking away at the keyboard. It's funny because we actually do have a patron whose name is Tom. So it's not you, though. We're talking about the one from MySpace, of course. But we do have a Patreon in which we release these episodes first, release them over there, and then on the main feed. So if you want to support the podcast, you get these earlier and you get access to our community, our Discord, in which you can have nice times and chat with us and fellow yumlings about The Expanse and other science fiction shows and things discussed on the podcast. But let's just tear into this, Rachel. Where do we want to start off with the discussion?
You set out the rules, Ryan.
Yes, the rules have been laid out. We usually have a rigid format for our conversations on the recaps. So
we start with our general thoughts on the season, and I thought this was okay-ish. It's a step down, and it fumbles, and it doesn't stick the landing.
You say stick the landing as if that was always your problem with the season, as if, hey,
no, but like,
it was...
Season 1. We had our problems with Season 1, but it found its groove. By the time that it was leaving, it was like, oh, they've kind of mostly figured it out.
There's a momentum.
This season does not have that. It feels like it's almost as messy at the end as it is at the start.
What do you think it is about the season that is lacking now that we have done all of the episodes, we know the story of it thus far? What about season 4 just does not connect with you? Okay. What are the things happening here that just fail?
For me, I think it comes down to the fact that they are not adapting one book. and they did not succeed in thematically tying each of the plots. Because previously they've built up to a conclusion where they all merge, right? That's not the case with this season, because they've got the stuff that happens like in the fourth book, and then they've taken stuff from other books.
Short stories or just random little bits and bobs to make sure that the cast are acting.
Yeah. So it's there because they want the characters to stay in the show, not because there is a reason for them to be there along with the main plot. And the show doesn't want you to recognize fully that that is the plot and these things are tacked on, but you still feel it anyway.
But this will get out one way or another. It's going to scare people.
Maybe that's not so bad. It'll support your position that going through the rings is too dangerous.
Sometimes I fucking hate being right.
This is the first real season in which every scene, every episode, every moment, I am constantly thinking about how this is an adaptation of a source material. I'm not absorbed in the show itself because it's not doing things in a natural way. And so you're wondering why that is. Oh, it's because this is trying to bring to life a source material. Maybe that's the root cause of many of the problems. Maybe that original book isn't very good for television standards in terms of translating it. Or maybe it's not a very good book for this series. It seems like it's a divisive book as well. So maybe that's the thing, or whatever the case may be. That was always at the forefront of my mind of thinking about how the writers were having to adjust and pivot and constantly stressing about how can they make this story work for the medium, which has been a prevailing thing from time to time, but I don't think it ever went away in season 4.
No, it's just, it's there. I don't even want to say that it's just humming in the background because it's even like more present than that.
I did not like this season. I wanted to,
and it's not bad, but it's not enjoyable.
Without a doubt, this has been the least enjoyable or compelling season of the series. I struggled to get through it, and I struggle to want to talk about it now for this recap. We have things we're going to hit upon, the episodes that we liked, the character moments that we hated, and so on and so on. And it's just so unremarkable of a season. Like, that's my biggest takeaway from it, is it's just so just of nothing in the road. And there's going to be the argument made of, well, it will pay off later. Yes, I understand, but at the same time, 10 episodes, 10 hours.
It's a season. It should stand on its own.
Yeah,
it should be a part of the whole.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just like, if you get a shitty slice of pizza, you still get to be mad at the slice.
Oh, of course. In terms of just thinking about the season, and thinking about how it made us feel, all I can really muster up is a shrug. Just a shrug of the shoulders. This is that season where you have to endure it to get going. And it's difficult too, because this is when they came back. The show got cancelled, it got quickly picked up, it's now on Amazon. Things changed. Certain people couldn't come back. Certain people were lost along the way in terms of the cast and production. And the book is very different too. So it has all of this additional stuff that just kept stacking on top of itself. And I mentioned the book stuff. What do you think about that in terms of this series? It's always at the back of our minds that, well, this may work better in the books. Is that a good justification for something like this?
No, it's not good enough. You are making television just because it's based off of something else doesn't mean that you get to use that as a crutch.
Do you, when you are looking at, say, a film or a TV show that is it is coming from a different place, like it is from a book or from a real life story or whatever the case may be, how often do you find yourself actually wanting to check out the actual thing itself?
Not often, because usually if I know that there's the two things, I will decide on what I'm more interested in and do that first.
But on the flip side, if you're reading a book and you find out there's a TV show of it, are you going to check out the show?
Yes.
Why is this the case?
I don't know.
Is it because there's like less commitment? In a way, like you have to actively be reading a book. You sit down,
okay,
you're turning the pages,
for me,
and then with a show, you can just put it on while you're sitting on the couch eating dinner.
For me, I would rather have the long form version, the book, and then see the short version, the TV show or the film, right? Rather than have the short version and then add to it in the long form version.
I bring all of this up because for myself, I'm never one to really yearn to check out the source material. I know that sounds terrible, but it's just an honest truth. I'm a TV and film person, and for the most part, I just want to watch the show or movie. But with this series, I also try in my heart of hearts to like not get too bogged down in in the book I imagine this, or well we got told in the book this, or well it's different in the book like this stuff, because you have to let that go for the show itself to work. And we do bring it up because one, this is one of the first times we've ever covered a television show that is from somewhere else. This isn't Star Trek Discovery where they're just making bullshit up week to week. This isn't Babylon 5 in which JMS planned it out and you're just watching his plan come to life, and so on and so on and so on. And this, why I'm just bringing this up is season 4 is just a victim of it so much, in which I honestly don't know, after having seen this, if I want to ever read these books. And most notably, I also am the most interested in reading this book
to see what the fuck happened.
To see what the fuck it was supposed to be.
Yeah, what the fuck could it have been?
Isn't like what are your takes on that? Have you had similar inclinations or feelings like, about like this?
Not with the main books. Like, I know that there's an Amos book, and I am excited at the prospect of reading that once we're done.
Like a comic book, right?
Yeah.
Something. Yeah.
I know that there's material that's focused in on him as a character, and I'm excited to delve into that. But out of the 4, I think I would be the most interested in a way to see what the first book was like.
I thought until we got here for this conversation that it was the 3rd book, because season 3 had to condense that into half of the season. But now I'm more interested to know what this was supposed to be, because I'll just lay it out right now. I think this is a bit of a disaster of a season.
Yeah.
I just...
It's very much a letdown from the previous.
That was the big conversation piece next up of, is this a step up, a step down, or the same as where we were previously.
It's a step down, but it's like that awkward level of step down where you're like, you're not sure if your foot's gonna hit anything. Like you're like, there is a step here, right? And you kind of like you have that lurch in your stomach.
What do you say is the big difference between season 3 and season 4?
This doesn't know what it wants to do as a whole season. It has plots, and the plots have their things, and the scenes have their things. But so much of it, you know from the beginning what is going to happen, and there's nothing that invests you in the journey.
I would agree. I would phrase it a bit differently. I think the problem is they painfully know exactly where they're going. They, by hook or by crook, get to there, and the characters do not act.
Referring to it, it's like the we see what was on the cue cards in the writers' room.
I think a huge issue here, and this is what I kept thinking of when looking back at where we've been. I loved season 3. I loved season 3 because of how the characters reacted to everything and their internal strifes and their ideologies and what they believed in and so on. And in this season, that was really stripped away because of the reverse engineering that was going on within the plot. The plots were so clearly geared to where they were going to go. Hence, you get frustrated very easily that we're in setup the whole season for things that we know are going to happen. So you have to wait 8 episodes for that thing to happen that you know within 5 minutes is going to be how they're playing it out, and they don't have any extra flourishes. I think the true sacrifice is the characters don't react naturally as well. We talked about this a lot, like especially with Christian. You're expecting her or even her husband to when something comes up the way that it does, you're naturally knowing who these people are because we're 4 seasons in, we're familiar with who these people are by now, and they aren't doing the things yet. And that's where the disconnect comes from me.
I keep on thinking back to our comment that like I'm just a great fan of Bobby rejects that plot.
Yeah, Bobby rejects that plot. Well,
it's not time for that yet, and then it was time for it at the end of the season.
That's where the big divide is for myself when it comes to season 3 and season 4. Think back, Rachel, to season 3 in ring space. There's a lot of hectic storylines going on there. Everyone's jammed in one location. People are backstabbing, people are wheeling and dealing, there's action, set pieces, people die. And you never lost focus or lost track of where the characters were coming from and why they did the things that they did. Like Clarissa Mao, who I miss deeply, by the way, Melba, she had a whole little arc, and we had a whole turnaround on how we felt about her. Like, we rejected her at first as like a lame wad villain, and then laughed at how she's a lame wad villain who's a bit of a Wile E. Coyote figure. We don't have much of that in season 4 because they prolong everything and stretch it out, and it just, the rubber band snaps from them stretching it so much, and yet also things are super crammed because, well, this was supposed to be the entire story, but we also have to jam in all of this other stuff on top of it. It's just, would you say it's the strangest season?
Yeah, because it does. You feel how much it's Frankensteined.
We're giving you food and meds to help the Belters, but at some point we're going to run out, and we're going to have to cut our losses. Belters aren't going to forget you're the reason we're down here.
I also think it's strange in a positive way, because artistically speaking, in terms of production, direction, they are very much swinging for the fences. We had a lot of like great visuals.
We get a planet. We get so much of them on a planet.
My favorite moments of the season were mainly rooted in those things of the cinematography, the aspect ratio changes, the color grading choices, the costume design, like the music, especially. I thought with each episode's end credits, music being this ominous thing that would change from episode to episode to really connect with what you had just watched. Like the season finale had an instrumentation version of Ashford's song that he sang.
Yeah.
The end credits, like the actual visuals of going towards that, like that stuff is what I really found to be my favorite things of the season.
Yeah, that's part of the frustration with the season is that it's stunning. But the substance isn't there.
It's the evolution of the creation of the show is still humming along nicely, but it's that writing of the season that's hanging us up. Now, we're being like really harsh on the show, but let's ease up a bit and talk a bit more about the things that did work, the things that we liked.
We got a sex scene this season. And you know damn well it was one of my favorite moments because it was Amos getting the fuck.
It was. It was a delightful thing that happened. I must admit that a lot of things that float to the top in terms of quality were Amos related. I thought Amos was really well implemented in terms of his scenes in particular. He's still not one of my absolute favorite characters. I don't know what it is that holds me back from loving him as much as you and others do, but he really had a lot of great ones. I liked the moment between him and Murtry at the bar and how...
Oh, you're a killer.
You're a killer and you got off on it, didn't you? And them just having a dick measuring competition at one another. I thought that was a really delightful little banter between the two, and just... They planted their flags in the ground, and for the rest of the season, they never back down from their attitudes that were brought up in that scene.
Yeah. And a line that's really stuck with me, and I feel is really reflective of one of our characters' journeys this season, is Avasarala saying it's a chair, not a throne.
Avasarala... One of my favorite things came from her as well, which was her speech for all of the Marines.
Memorial.
Yeah, the Marines that died, and how that was performed and how it tied back into things of the previous seasons that are key to her character and the overall use of it, that she was weaponizing her own trauma and her own guilt and her own suffering to use it as a political move to make her stance better.
Yeah.
It was what I wanted more of from her in the season, like that level of politicking, that level of playing the Game of Thrones.
The whole season in her, in an election cycle. And that's the peak moment of her playing politics, and you want to build up to that more, because I don't think that you want something to be bigger than that, because it's that moment that really breaks her husband, and that's really important. But the other things that came before it don't have that heft to them.
No, they don't.
Her deciding to blow up the ship and send in the Marines and various other things. Like, on paper, you see how those are meant to be, spinning her out of control to the point where she does do something as horrible as use her own son's death for her political gain. Because we do not see her as being righteous for doing that.
No, it's a true low point for her.
Yeah, we're sad that she's not ashamed of herself.
This is what upsets me about this overall season. We want to talk about the things we like, talk about the things that worked, and we can raise scenes or moments that were spectacular, but they're marred by the lead-in to them not being satisfying, not being truthful, not being real to us, being hackneyed or short-sighted or hollow, and it's just such an anger to me. Here's two things that I think that did get away from those problems, and I will raise them as things that were maybe the shining jewels of the entire season. And I want to hear from you after this of do you have like a favorite like thing of the season, or was it just the Amos sex scene? Like, is there something outside of just you got an Amos sex scene? Like when you walk away from season 4, you're like, now that's a thing I really thought was spectacular. Like this is like something they really nailed down. Like this is a thing I really like.
The fight choreography for Bobby. I like that's something that comes to mind.
Any particular examples of such fight choreography? Because I'm like, yeah, she punched some people.
Yeah, like it was just like I can't even think of anything specific. I'm like, like they did a good job with that.
Okay.
But the writing, let it down. Damn it, I can't do it.
She can't handle it. Here are my two that I will say. Everything with Miller was awesome. Not just awesome, but it was the most thought-provoking in the way that The Expanse is when it comes to utilizing the science fiction genre and its characters to tap into the philosophical, into, dare I say, the metaphysical.
Thomas Jane is good at his job.
I've said my piece on it a bit, but like the fact that he was two people at the same time, yet neither of them were actually Miller. Like the essence of Miller and the essence of the proto molecule. Thomas Jane stepped up and he performed the role with absolute ease and eccentricities. He lit up the screen every time he was on the show.
Yep.
And it made the most daring move of all, which is justifying his return.
Yes.
Because Miller's sacrifice in season 2 was great.
Yeah.
So bringing him back always runs the risk of undoing that or watering it down, or just you couldn't help yourself but to bring the cool character back. And I honestly feel like season 4, same with season 3, but mainly season 4 justified it. They brought it around, and although his death the second time wasn't as like heartfelt or memorable, it was still very like good. It didn't ruin what came before.
Okay. Is your second the decision to make it not Havelock?
That's never going to be. That's my least favorites. Right next to the fact that the Gaunt Belter and Monica weren't two competing journalists about the Illis story. Okay, that was a wasted thing. If my memory serves, Monica was a reporter at the beginning of the season, right? She came from season 3. I swear she did one report at the beginning of the season, never saw her again.
Yep.
Truly wasted.
I feel like that's right.
She should have been one of the people grilling Avasarala about the election and so on and so on. Truly, swing and a miss there, guys. You gave us a great character, and she just disappeared. They couldn't get the actress back, probably, sadly. No, the second is, and I feel like he probably fared the best during the season, it's Alex.
Mm-hmm.
And I really loved his conversation. You didn't love it as much, but I really loved his conversation with Lucia about that one moment he felt like he was a good father when he got his kid.
He got it right.
He got it right. He got the sand and all that, and he was so happy. And and yet also he realizes that he can't keep using this memory and this one good act as a justification for the shitty things he has done. He can't hide behind that. He can't just keep doing what Alex in season 1 did, which is, if I hold up my picture of my family and everyone knows that I love my family, it means I'm a good person. He can no longer use this story as a little prop in his narrative anymore. But it is a good story, and I thought that was one of the great examples of when this series humanizes the people we're following. It really can do wonders. I thought just if there was more scenes of characters talking like that in which we're paying off or following through on things that have come before, but giving it in a new light that benefits the story currently going on and the characters that are new, then I think this would have been much more of a winner. But those moments were a little bit more sparse than I was expecting.
Yeah, there isn't the absence of potential in this season. That's part of what makes it annoying, is that you see where they've done something or where they could have done something, and it's like, oh, damn it, really?
I lost my family because I couldn't be the man that my wife and my little kid needed me to be. I have to live with that. I could never make that right. You still have a chance to make it right. Make new memories with your kid instead of sitting around like me hanging on to one moment that I got right.
There's more of a melodrama to this season.
Yes.
That's my talking about worst stuff of the season was that Alex scene I love so much was immediately undercut by something that the season did repeatedly, which is, no, this character scene is actually just servicing how we have the eureka moment to make the plot gears keep turning. I just got so fucking tired of how plot-driven the show was, and yet we knew exactly where they were putting the pieces and how they were going to put them down.
It was so frustrating being like, well, that's not going to happen yet.
No,
that's not going to happen yet because that needs to happen in about, halfway through the next episode or in 3 episodes' time. And we were pretty good with predicting those things.
And it's not bad because we can predict it and they do it. It's the fact that the journey isn't really the best, but it's the thing we keep saying of they are doing it in a way where it's more often than not far too late. Does the Barb plot need to be more than half the season? Not at all. But we have to have Naomi do something.
Yeah. She's got to be doing something up there. They've got to be doing something there, and Mars and Earth need a plot.
When it comes to...
And then the belt, because that's the balance that they've established. We've got these things going on in all of these different places, and we've got characters in all of these places, and we need to stop each episode and water
the seeds. Yeah. We're really focusing on the macro in terms of the things that didn't please us. But to zoom in, did you have specific choices or scenes or a character moment that just fell completely flat or even pissed you off?
The slime trails.
The slug stuff. Which is
stuff. But like the dun 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 reveal with the black light, they're everywhere. It's just
and then they deal with it really quickly with little problem in the next episode. It's like, why did you bring it up? You brought up the slugs show. I didn't bring up the slugs.
I didn't ask for slugs. But you gave me slugs.
But also, I don't want it to be more than an episode because I don't want it.
No, we made fun of that whole plot very thoroughly. We did not enjoy the infection subplot.
Which was dumber? The eye infection or the slugs?
Oh,
Which was
the
worse?
insta-kill slugs or the green-eyed infection?
I have to say the slugs because it was
Yeah.
just so funny how little it played into anything. But the eye
At least the
infection,
infection made them blind.
but also it didn't really add anything to the series because once they were blind, everything was relatively calm, and then they solved the
Yeah.
situation. So I was
I
like,
really
again,
love
why did you bring it up,
Holden's
show?
line, they're blind, not deaf.
Yeah.
Ugh. It's like, they're blind, not deaf. And he's just so annoyed and frustrated by them.
The slugs, the blindness, what they are perfect examples of in this season is it came and went type stories. Oh, that happened. And then it went away. And one of
It's
the
another
most...
symptom.
It's another symptom. Because as much as you want to justify the merits of it, the painfully obvious setup to the blindness stuff was hilarious to us. It was just so like goofy, and then the payoff wasn't worth it, and then they just wrapped it up real neat and tidy, and it barely impacted on anything. The most it gave us was a great bit of Amos material with him being so wounded by it and traumatized, and him giving us a bit of backstory, but
Him going off to try and die.
him going to try and die because, well, we might as well. We're just sitting in the dark waiting. That's it. Like, that's the best that they got out of the blindness, and there's other ways you could have gotten that scene, guys. But another thing that did this as well in the season early on, and I hated it, and just because they introduced it and wrapped it up real quickly doesn't excuse what they did, which is Naomi hiding the fact that her heart cannot handle being on the planet from Holden, just so we can have some, honestly, just empty...
Alex hiding it.
Alex
for
hiding
her.
it. Yeah, just empty drama between her and Holden because they're cowards. They don't know how to not have this relationship, this central romance, be something sustainable without throwing in some piece of dramatic bullshit. And it's usually on Naomi's end. Like, I feel bad for the character of Naomi because they always put the burden of crappiness on her shoulders to the point in which I don't think she deserves Holden as a partner.
She has a great scene with Lucia.
Yeah, you're getting there. Yeah. You're Lucia, yeah, whatever her name is. There's that, and the two worst things to me in the season. Bottom of the barrel, just what the fuck were they thinking type things is... I'll go, from second worst to worst. The scene of the general quitting because of Avasalara's actions. That there is like a perfect summary of why a lot of the character stuff from the big or small players just feels so false in the season. He quits because of all of these reasons that do not feel justified with what we had witnessed on his part in the show.
No.
He gives us whole, you were here to do it for your own political gain. And yet, the episode where she made that choice, she was so, like, overtly grief-stricken with having to do this, and she weighed it up, and she talked through all of the options, she asked for opinions, like, she was so diplomatic.
She asked for both to be prepared.
In case, and she had to sit on this for a while. She wasn't just firing off at the hip and being opportunistic, but he quits because the writers want to get across the idea. I just thought that was just...
egregious?
Pathetic. So pathetic. And what a downgrade from the wonderful side characters we used to get. That could have...
Win.
Yes, Win was insane, and then Saltha was like noble. This guy, could you tell me anything more about him?
I can't even remember his name.
Did he get one? I don't even think he did. Maybe he did, and you could prove me wrong.
No, because they're like, Admiral so-and-so's here to see you.
General. He was a general because he was wearing green.
Oh, that.
Yeah, he was, because they're Marines.
I can't even remember that much.
Aren't they in the Navy, Marines? So wouldn't they be under I don't care. And here's the worst one. Worst thing of the season. Bottom of the barrel. Here's how damning it is. This is some Star Trek Discovery level fuckery that they did here. I'll say the word, and I want you to pick up the baton and get running with it, because you
am I going to be
were
able to?
visceral about it as well.
Mm-hmm.
You actually flagged it up as the thing, and I was like, oh yeah. I was so disengaged that I didn't even think to get mad about it, which is Orphan.
Orphan Ranger?
Ranger, the little orphan Annie.
Yeah. The little orphan Annie that gets adopted to replace Kia's daughter who leaves. Because they need another kid. And
He's there.
He's there. He's like, Mommy.
You're giggling about it now.
Mommy.
But it's atrocious.
He's like, oh, they got blown away. So it's like, oh, Amos is gonna protect him. I wonder who's gonna conveniently end up being his surrogate foster family.
Yeah.
Because is it gonna be the family that we met? The one on the whole planet. That's the only family that we get to know.
It was. This is atrocious. Fucking garbage. I am offended
It's just
that they sunk
so
to such a low
lame.
but here's what makes it worse. The kid's never a character.
No.
He's never even gifted with the fact of he could be a character. Remember May?
Is he named?
No, he's just little orphan. May, remember her? She was also a child character that was there to spur on our heroes to do things and so on and so on. And she had her friend Katoa and all of that. They were characters, though. You felt for them. You worried about them. They were introduced properly. This kid, you see him immediately and you go, oh, they've cast a little cute orphan with the red curly hair. And it's just a device for manipulation of us. Shorthand. Like I said, I wanted to pass it off to you a bit more because you get so angered by this stuff, but now you're giddy at it because here we are at the end of season 4 and it was so just nakedly pathetic.
Oh, yeah. It's upfront with how bad it is. And, just the fact that it was just as bad as I thought it was going to be is what I find funny about it. It's still aggravating. It's still annoying. But it's just they fucking did that.
Why? Why did they do that?
It's cheap drama. Is the best I've got for you, honey. Best I got for you.
They don't even put in any effort to even make the argument that it adds to the series. It is a detraction because it's so clearly just a tool in the script. It's like this kid's not a character. Amos imprints on him for a moment and then he drops him like a bag of rocks and never refers to the kid again.
He's helping him in the line. That's the closest that we
and that
get.
was the end of that.
Don't worry. I'll see for the both of us.
Where do we want to go to now, Rachel? We've talked about the things that didn't work.
Episodes.
Oh, those.
Yeah.
And what are we going with the episodes? You want to talk about the ones that were the best?
Yeah, we did the worst moments. Now we're doing the best episodes. What was your favorite of the season, Ryan?
I was super excited to hear what yours were because before we recorded, you were asking me questions about, was this episode good? Was this episode bad? And I was doing the same thing, but quietly so that it didn't feel like I didn't want to tip, because in our relationship, I'm like the type who's like, if I stay quiet, maybe people will assume I know what I'm doing. And Rachel is one of those people where she's like, well, Ryan's not saying that he also doesn't know, so he must have a feeling. I had a hard time. I had a hard time remembering the episodes.
Yeah, because you would occasionally chime in, and I would be like, "Is that one?" And you're like, "Maybe,
maybe." It was hard to to break them apart because everything ran together. But not only just that, it's not only
Saculum Town.
Oh yes,
mine.
The last Miller episode.
Yeah, like that one had emotional heart, heft. Really liked Holden's monologue
about the rain.
Yep. But also, like, is it within that episode, or maybe it's in the next one when he's talking with Naomi and he says goodbye to the goo.
That was in the finale. Yeah. But that one was the one where he put down Murtry, Amos got his fingers shot off, Way got killed, and Miller
Lots
sacrificed
of things finally
himself.
paid off.
Is that the main reason? Because everything paid off for that?
Yeah, that's like...
I like that episode too because it's one of the only ones of the season in which the time since I've seen it has made me more fond of it. When we watched it initially, I thought it was a decent episode, but then when we talked about it, I improved upon it. Then when I edited the episode and had conversations about the episode with our patrons, I really grew a finer appreciation. It hit that vein that the previous seasons did with talking about things on a metaphysical level even, and I appreciated it. It's probably my favorite too, although I still keep coming back to, I believe it's the one right before it, which is the One-Eyed Man, in which, yes, we cured the blindness in that episode and we deal with the slugs, but I thought the absolute, like, the stuff in it was really well done. The Amos scenes were standouts, and I thought Stephen Straight's acting for Holden was his best that he's done in the show, and it was a majority of the episode focusing in on him. It's really the episode of the season, The One-Eyed Man, in which I could tell you how I felt about the characters themselves, not just what the plot did in it, which is a major problem with the season. I can't tell you like, oh, this episode was where this character did a thing and I felt this way about it. While, say, Dandelion Sky, what I think about in season 3 with Dandelion Sky, I'm not thinking about like, oh, that was the episode where, you know, A, B, and C plots did this. It's the one where immediately I go, oh, that's where Anna gave the eulogy. And it affected her in this way. And I have to stop talking about it because I could go on for 10 minutes about it. While most of season 4 don't have those type of episodes that spark that, but this one does. Like the One-Eyed Man has like lots of like cute little moments, great pieces of tension, and it was a cathartic episode because not only did we pay stuff off, but there was this overwhelming sense of optimism.
Yeah.
I actually really liked the Barb plot in that episode. It wasn't elaborate, and I liked when they saved the Barb seemingly, and they fly off into the sunset, and the music's swelling, and Naomi's commenting about how things can work out in the end. Are there any other episodes within the season that you gravitated towards, or
none that you haven't already mentioned?
None? No others, huh?
No.
I still wonder about that first episode.
In No Terror?
We were very much saying, will this improve or our feelings towards it be sharper once we reach the back half of the season and even the end? I still don't know. I don't like what the story was, but that episode I still think about because it did have a brilliant sense of dread to it that was underneath the surface, not just smashing you in the face with it. I appreciate that episode, but also I can't say if it's a good one because what came after it. And the fact that we were both keenly aware that these were the things that were going to come after it, or like a majority of it was. So I don't know. Like, do you have any opinions on that first episode that we were so unsure about when we watched it?
I think it's gonna not rise to the top. It's probably higher than a lot of the other episodes, but that doesn't make it good. That just makes it better than some of the crap that's here.
Well, there's plenty of crap. I think most of the episodes we gave a thumbs down to a yum.
We gave a lot of yums this season. There was a stretch where I was wondering if we were going to give any yum yums or if it was just going to be like a pity yum yum.
And I was more charitable than you were.
Oh, yeah.
With the yum yums.
I was holding back. I was like, if I didn't enjoy it, it's not getting no yum yum from me.
What was the worst episodes or episode to you?
I had done Subduction and Oppressor as my two.
Give us a crash course in those ones and what were the lacking elements of them.
So with these two, it was the ones that really stood out in my memory of feeling like they were filler. I knew where the plot was going and this was the next step. And every single scene felt like that.
So what happened in those, and were there any things else in particular that made them just sink so deep? Because what you said, you could apply to pretty much any of the episodes that weren't the ones that we said we liked.
Yeah. Oppressor, I wrote down because it has a shitty cliffhanger ending after having a decent scene with Avasarala deciding to shoot the ship down. So it's just like, oh no, you're not gonna do it.
Not do what?
So it's like you gonna make me invested, make me care for something interesting? Oh no.
What was the cliffhanger of that? Was it just her?
The explosion happening on the island that causes
the tsunami
and the earthquakes.
Yeah, and what was subduction? I can't recall. These episode titles don't help. Subduction, Oppressor. Like, Oppressor's the one where Christian gave the speech. I remember that. I remembered I enjoyed that episode, but you did not care for it too much.
Yeah, no, it's, the description is, new alien threats emerge on Illis as Naomi battles the health challenges on the planet. Bobby searches for a missing person on Mars. Avasarala faces a new challenge in the UN. So I think it's one of the ones where, like, Naomi is hiding that she's having the issues with her heart condition, and they're discovering the things that are going wrong. I think it might be the one where it ends with Holden pulling out the root, maybe?
If you put a gun against my head, I could not tell you who the missing person Bobby was looking for. It said in the plot, like, Bobby's looking for a missing person. I don't know who that was. I don't care. Like, I know someone will say, oh, well, Ryan, don't you remember it's this clear story strand? Man, that just went whoop right out of my brain with that.
Let me double check for you.
I will tell you right now, there was one episode, and no one's surprised. I'm actually surprised you didn't put it down because you hated it. But it was one in which I loathed it. I don't always come out with The Expanse swinging by saying I hate an episode, but this is a series worst episode for me currently, which is Displacement. That's the one right after Oppressor, in which the colony is having to rush to the ancient alien ruins. We get the introduction of the little orphan. We get the shit happening on the bar. We cut over to, Christian having to do this, and we have Drummer and Ashford just standing at their console, postulating for a whole episode what they're going to do in relation to Marco. And then maybe they'll do something.
Bobby's nephew.
Oh,
I think is
he
what
missing?
it's referring to. Yeah,
Oh,
because she doesn't know where he is.
do you think he was
and
with?
He was being abducted.
Do you think he was with?
By Lily
Do you think
Blondie? Sorry.
Do you think? Fuck it, I'm not doing it. I was going to make a joke about Christian's grandson, but I can't be bothered because the show wasn't. Displacement is my least favorite episode of the entire show because I gained nothing from it. I was so aware when viewing it that this was meaningless. The eye infection stuff was absolutely hysterical.
I forgot about it. I forgot.
Really?
Like,
no.
I forgot that was
season
all
4
in one
episode?
episode.
A season 4 episode that's slipping from your mind? We got pushback. I got pushback for not liking that and making fun of the eye infection plot and hold on to your butts, guys. This is really going to pay off in the end. Well, it came and went. It came, that happened, an eye infection. And then it's gone. They had an inexplicable choice. They not only gave us the orphan, but right before that, and I can't let this go. I can't let this go because it's a warning sign of things to come. I don't know this. I don't know if Amazon...
You fear it.
I fear it. I don't know if the switch over to Amazon did something in their brains. I don't know if the writers are just getting too comfortable or whatever it is. The production is getting a sloppy... I can't... We get all of this amazing stuff with Amos and Way and all of that, right? We get all of this stuff with Alex and Naomi and all of that. Great. Cut to Elvie, the scientist, and she doesn't give a fuck about this eye infection until she gets it. And then she's trying to explain to Holden what's going on with this eye infection. And he sees that there's like a shockwave coming at them. And he screams, or he has a whole reaction, but neither of them get down. They stand up. They stay standing up.
No scratches.
And
nothing. There's glass everywhere.
It shatters the windows of the room they're in, spraying glass directly into their face and eyes. No cuts, no injuries, no blindness. I hated that, and I hated that episode. The cliffhanger is, Jimmy Holden boogie boards his way into the ancient alien ruins. Because at least with other bad episodes or ones that we haven't appreciated, I could say there was something that I could garner from it on like a overall episode level. But this one was, maybe there was one or two little scenes or lines of dialogue that I liked. But is that good enough for an episode to be worthy? No.
All of the reactors are out on every ship in orbit. The fuel pellets are no longer fusing.
Yeah, the old blue goo.
But you know who is worthy? Amos. And he's my favourite.
We usually do a numbered ranking of characters of the season. I could not do that because I don't think there were 3 characters I actually liked in the season.
I liked Amos. I liked Holden.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's it. And mainly because they were together.
Yeah.
What, you didn't like Christian's new husband?
No.
You didn't like her advisors? Those great characters?
No.
What about how about this? Bobby?
No.
You know what's so strange? I get to this recap and I realize that I have all of this brewing resentment from the season because I listen to the episodes, I talk to our patrons, I look at the comments, and I try to see the benefit of I give it the benefit of the doubt. I try to see the positives. I try and give.
We're allowed to not like it.
But here I am now talking about best characters. I honestly, this is hand on my heart, true statement. I don't think any of the characters this season were good. I honestly don't think they were any good. I think they were good or great because of the work that came before.
Oh yeah, in this season, no.
And the acting that came from them. But do I think that James Holden was a really well-written character and I liked his journey and his arc and his theme? No. He was just the more tolerable one.
My third pick,
Mm-hmm.
Miller.
There you go, Miller. Or even Miller, my big thing is would have loved more of him because he was eccentric. Maybe Miller, but even then, did I like Miller in this season more than I liked him in season 2? No, in season 3, that's useless. But honestly, I can't say this was my favorite because none of them I have passion for.
No,
I still think about
not in this.
I still think about Aaron Wright, and I get a smile on my face when I think about him swearing, saying, telling Jules Pierre Mao to get his ass back here. Or I get a big grin on my face when I think about when I think about Clarissa Mao seeing James Holden down the block, and he's smiling at her going, "Hey, I'm Jim, what are you in for?" And I'm giggling. I'm oh man, what a great character she was. Or even Ashford in season 3.
You have moments that you remember.
It's not just moments, but they were endearing and I gravitated towards them. Anna, I miss Anna. But season 4, maybe, and this is the best one, and it's only because he was consistent. I felt like he grew from where he was last season, and the season before, which is Alex. I think Alex is probably the character that came out the best from this season for me.
Alex has improved, and I want to mention Ashford.
Yeah, I feel a bit iffy because most of the time he was just standing there.
Yeah, he didn't get a lot to do, but he at least had moments where I'm yeah, I remember that. I remember his death.
I liked his conversation with Drummer about the cycle of violence and how she looked at the Mormon paintings and thought they were funny, and now she sees a horrifying truth of the human condition, and he wants to advocate that we can move beyond that. That was well done, but I think Alex came out the best in the season for myself, and it's because they didn't give him any... There was no moment of Alex in this season where I have to put a caveat next to why I liked it. There was no sequence or choice made to him that I rolled my eyes at or thought stretched out stuff or I thought was bullshit. There was no, with Ashford, I have to say, yeah, but also he just stood around a lot. Alex, every time he was there, he was actually contributing, not just to the plot, but he was offering something within himself that has been garnered through the seasons.
Ryan, do you know what character I can say that for? Bobby.
Oh.
Bobby was fucking useless.
She one of your not favorites of the season?
That was my attempt to transition.
Please, you have to lay your case on the table here for everyone to understand. Why did season 4 not make Bobby a character you enjoyed? Was it just because of its
development that happened with Bobby? Her grappling with the idea of Mars not needing her. And the Martian dream kind of being dead. And the new worlds that have opened up through the ring, meaning that they're going to likely abandon Mars. Because why do all of this work to make an inhabitable world habitable when you could just go get one that's ready-made? And the journey that she goes through with that is interesting. Her joining a crime gang, not so much.
It was better than we thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
I actually
But
thought she was going to do a whole, like, I've got to get revenge against the crime gang, and I've gotten it over my head, and now I've got a war. It was better told than what we thought it was going to be.
Her character the most that I got angered by how shackled they were by the pacing of the season. Because, like we said earlier, it was just like, Bobby can't say yes to that plot yet. She's not gonna, she's like, oh, that's a good plot. No, thank you. So I'm gonna go do this, and then I'll draw it up with Avasarala, maybe, because, like, she's not president of the UN by the end of the season.
Secretary General, yeah. With Bobby, what hangs me up is what I said in the season 4 finale. As much as I want to praise it, like how you just did, with everything you said about, like, what was interesting, I was vibing with way more than you, but it's the same story for her, as it always is.
Again, she realizes that it's not black and white. It's grey.
If she wasn't in season 3...
Mars doesn't appreciate her.
If she wasn't in season 3, and she didn't have that repeat, would she be better a character to you if they had this the way it was? Because I think that's a huge issue for me.
Yeah.
I think I would love her way more.
Recycling.
Yeah, it's repetitive. It's recycling and it's repetitive. It's just Bobby becomes disillusioned yet again, and there's a promise that she'll do an engaging plot next season. I doubt, but also I worry because one of my least favorite characters of the season, and it actually feels sacrilegious to say it, but I didn't like Christian at all this season.
Oh, yeah. Like, I left that one for you because I think we've made it very clear how disappointed we are with her this season. The fact that we're annoyed... Sorry to interrupt.
No, go.
The fact that we're annoyed when it went to her, when in previous seasons we waited, we were excited when she came back, we wanted more of her, and in this season we were like,
it's because she was a caricature.
We were apprehensive.
She was a cartoon of what she once was. And I won't bang the drum anymore. I've already said my piece about how she doesn't react and act like her character. It's very much a character who is added to the story and they don't know what to do with her. She doesn't contribute in my enjoyment factor, and she's one of my least favorites of the season because what was once an undeniable great character has been buried underneath some of the laziest, most shortcut, hackneyed writing that the show has presented.
So contrived.
They're trying to help.
Caring matriarch.
It's an election debate. They just want you to play the game.
Fuck.
Was there anyone that was introduced in season 4 that you will remember fondly, that you like, that you would say is good? Marco?
Like, Marco's gonna stick around.
But I'm including if they stick around. Like, was there any new people?
I guess so.
Marco
and Philip?
I don't even think, like, I don't give a fuck about Philip, nor did you in the last discussion, but, like, Marco was an interesting character. Is that it? Is he the only one? Like, what, Christian's advisors? Christian's new husband?
No, Lucio.
Any of the
husband.
Yeah, any of the colonists?
No, Mercury.
That was going to be my next question. What do we think about Mercury now as the big bad of the season? But, like, let's keep focusing on
this fucking monologue about I'm the one.
I'm the old post offices.
Hey, I'm the one. You come as a post office holder. You're not meant to be here yet.
Wow.
I don't know what that voice was. I apologize.
Burn Gorman entered the recording studio. everyone. He heard that we were talking about Mercury, and he just pushed Rachel out of her chair. And he decided to give us a little rendition of his post office monologue. I'm so glad that we're star-studded podcast affair. We interview Glenn Morgan, one of the greatest writers of the X-Files, and Bern Gorman comes in to let us hear a little...
Larry?
Oh, and Larry DiTilio, he used to pop in from time to haunt the podcast. Thank God that Bern Gorman's a new Larry DiTilio. But I mean it. I want to talk about Bern Gorman and Mercury a bit, but like, is there any side character, like any new character of the season? Nothing.
Think of anybody, no.
Season 2 and 3 was like the gift that kept on giving with those small players, like even one and dones. I still think about like
I still love Anna. I still love Prax, though.
Yeah, or even I've forgotten her name now, but the pilot of the Weeping Somnambulist, like she was a really good character. She was in 2 episodes of the show. I've never seen her again, nor do I need to, but I remember her. Like I liked her. I felt about her. She said that there were shit magnets. Like she was memorable. Lucia, on the other hand, she's serviceable. Yeah, they did the stuff that you put in a script to make it so that she goes from A to B to C to D to E to F onwards in terms of character evolution, but I don't give a fuck about her.
Nope.
I never felt that. Like, there were 1 or 2 interesting little moments, but not enough. Like, I think they beat the drum already of Prax was just too damn good of the character who felt some kind of trauma in relation to their child.
Yeah.
In terms of being a parent.
Yeah.
And now we have Lucia doing it, and it's like, well,
and it's
I'm sorry.
different, but it's just
Your relationship with Alex is not as good as Prax's one with Amos.
Don't care.
Yeah. And now Mercury. Was he a good villain?
Okay, well, what's your measure of a good villain?
I'm asking you. Well,
I'm asking you for criteria.
I don't know. I don't know exactly what
he wasn't scary.
No, never.
He did not have a very clear plan other than kill everybody.
He was a fascist.
Which is pretty boring. He got some monologues, but they weren't very interesting or scary. Thus, we were laughing about his post office speech.
But is he supposed to be kind of a laughable villain because he's on purposely a joke? Like, remember that for most of the season, he doesn't even have pants? Like, he's got torn up pants that show his, like, underwear.
Yeah.
Like, he was a bit of a laughing stock on purpose, and that he is supposed to be nothing intellectually stimulating. He's not an Ashford. He's not an Anderson Dawes. He's not an Ehrenreich, in which they have these eloquent speeches and these ideologies to hide behind when it comes to everything. He is just muscle. He's just a fascist bully boy, as Neil from The Young Ones would say. I think he's just a starter villain. Like, if he was in season 1 and he was someone that, like, Miller had to deal with, sure. But after having movers and shakers who are actually willing to change the galaxy, like the universe as a whole, Mercury just being a guy who just wants some quick, easy cash, isn't that interesting?
Yeah, well, he wants to get his dues.
But Marco, who's in like 2 or 3 big scenes, far more compelling. I want to see what that guy's up to. I want to know more about his deal. I found him much more electrifying on the screen. He was menacing and yet complicated. He has a dynamic with one of our main characters, and yet we don't see them on screen together in the season.
Nope.
But I'm dying to see it happen. Mercury. Bern Gorman was a point of ire at the beginning because I'm not a Bern Gorman fan. I don't like him as an actor. You have seen him in more. You've had on and off, positive feelings with him. You know, you've enjoyed him and stuff. You've hated him and stuff. Mm-hmm. Was he good casting for Mercury?
he did a lot of the work. Like, casting him did a lot of work for the character. It immediately told me what kind of person Murtry was going to be. So, if they wanted shorthand, yeah. If they wanted somebody to elevate the character, no.
I don't know how it is with his character in the book, nor do I care in terms of this discussion point right now. I wonder if it would have made more sense if he was played by someone that you could genuinely believe could take on Amos, could take on Holden even.
Yeah.
Because he's someone that, I don't mean this as an insult to Ben Gorman, you saw him with his shirt off, he's a fit guy, but every time he was on the screen, I felt like I could take him.
And he's injured as well, so you don't have, like, that oomph of, like, yeah, he could take them in a fight, and you do not get the sense that he can outsmart them.
And I don't believe that he's charismatic enough to convince his own men to follow him.
The next thing we have down is, like, what was the biggest surprise or shock of the season? And I struggled to think of anything because it was so formulaic.
I was constantly shocked that they made a Christian election plot boring.
I was going to say, my shock is they managed to make such a bad season while not making me hate the show. Like, I still want to watch next season. This was shit. But it hasn't ruined The Expanse for me.
I'm dismayed because I've been loving The Expanse for the last little while. You know, being able to chat with you about it, to think of what the show has been doing, those performances, those characters. I even have those moments, you know, as someone who's into acting, I keep thinking, oh man, I would love to play this character or this character. I was so jazzed about the show. This season, you know, I'm dismayed to say it, but if I was seeing this at the time,
You would have dropped it, probably.
I would have questioned if, like, I would want to go on because it was just such a downer. Like, that's such a sadness to say, and like, yeah, you know, I don't know if I would have been like, oh, well, this is what happens when it's switched over from Sci-Fi to Amazon or whatever, because, you know, a lot of those production things I don't keep track of when a show's on. This is something that I keep track of for things like what we're doing here on the pod, because it's something to give us context of what we're talking about, and perhaps it can cloud the judgment or perhaps it can focus us. But I was just left dick in hand at the end of this season wondering, what were we doing? We were on such a upward trajectory, and then it's not as if this is the worst season of television. This is the worst season of The Expanse.
I'm done.
We're wrapping this up. We're nearing the end here, Rachel, but we're the Yum Yum podcast.
Amos fucks. Is there an alternative option for a Yum Yum moment?
Yum Yum is the sexy of the season.
It's the sexy of the season.
Here's why I object a little.
Like, it's not the sexiest sex scene.
Here's why I object a little.
But it's this, it's gotta be one of the main ones, right? We can agree on that.
You know, you and I disagreed at the time. She kept that top on, and I just felt like that was one of those production things where she will show her bum, but she ain't showing her titties, and I just thought, I don't know, this is one of those scenes. But Amos is a screamer, so of course that's the Yum Yum moment of the season. He's a big muscly guy. He screams when he has sex. That's awesome. I can't even think of any other real sexy moments of the season. Like, it was a very, very dry season. And that just adds to the fervor of the fourth season. Clearly, we both give it a yum, right, in terms of quality?
Yeah.
It's not really one that gets your heart swelling, but how about we make our predictions on what the season ahead will be? Then we'll hear the name of the next episode, the premiere, and talk about what we think the first installment of season 5 could have in it.
I think Bobby is going to continue on her quest. I don't know if that's going to involve Avasarala or not. The Rossi is going to do more stuff in ring space.
Okay.
Fred is going to try and hold the ring hostage.
He is there, last we saw.
Yeah. And that's going to be conflict with the UN.
Okay. Those are your big ones?
Yeah. I don't have a lot to go on. And, I guess straight away you're going to be dealing with Marco sending asteroids towards Earth and Mars.
Okay. So that's where my big play is. I think Earth is going to get, not destroyed per se, but it's going to get devastated from a successful attack by Marco. Christian and Bobby are going to be on the trail of that and probably not be able to stop it in time, but they will have garnered enough concrete evidence thanks to Ashford and so on to truly be able to pin down that it was Marco who did it and make the system either turn on him or idolize him for being a success. The Rossi crew, I imagine, will get embroiled in that because Naomi is actively trying to pursue Marco now because she wants to see her son. I think
she wants to save him.
Yes.
So that he doesn't die.
I think Fred Johnson is going to be the key to that because she did phone him up for a favor. I think the Rossi is going to be working from it's no longer called the Behemoth. What's it called? It's called something else, right? It's had 4 names. They're going to be working from there for a portion of the season is my predictions. And I can see that being a thing in which there's going to be a bit of a tug of war with the Rossi crew and Fred Johnson and so on. And what else is there that they have just hanging in the ether there? I'm just trying to recall our characters. Oh, prediction. In terms of Earth getting bombed, I think Christian's husband is going to die because they set her up as going to Luna and him staying. They made a big deal about that, and I think that's going to be the big sadness for Christian in the season of not only was she unable to save Earth, but she was unable to save the ones she loves. I don't know if the grandson will die because who knows where he is currently. He's just scampered off. He's probably running around playing hide and seek and throwing water balloons and stuff. And here's things I would like to see. Do you have things on your list of I'd like to see this in the season, not even expecting it will happen? I would just like to see it. Me, obvious. I would like to see Anna again. I'd like to see Prax again. I'd like to see Clarissa again. I'd like to see Monica again. Those are the big things. It's mainly what I would like is the characters I thought were really good and had more potential to add to the show, but they were jettisoned. I'm hoping that we were perhaps being a bit too harsh and thinking, they lost them between the change of, networks and whatnot.
Maybe they've had enough time to get them back, if that was the case.
Or those actors weren't needed for the story that they were telling. Perhaps we think Monica would have been a great contribution to season 4, but maybe she wouldn't have, and maybe season 5 is where she comes in now. But that's the big stuff of season 5 in terms of my big scope stuff. Anything else for you?
Nah.
No?
Nah.
Anyone you think will return?
Nah.
You don't think any of those old characters will?
No.
You don't think we'll see Aaron Wright?
No.
Just making a little jail appearance?
No.
What about Anderson Dawes?
I don't want to get my hopes up, okay? Leave me alone.
Do you think the Gaunt Belter will make a little appearance?
Oh.
How about I tell you the name of the Season 5 premiere episode, and you make predictions on what you think will happen
Fine.
in the opening. It's called Exodus.
So everybody's rushing to get through the ring, I guess.
Does it bother you we never found out what the fuck Illus's deal was? What the fuck was that planet?
What the fuck was it? I like your theory.
What was my theory? I had a
That
theory?
it's like an artificially created planet that the makers created to mine lithium.
Exodus. I'm not too sure how we're going to really jump off with the 5th season. I'm mainly just focusing on Bobby and Christian working together, them hunting down leads, Christian getting more accustomed to her new location on Luna. I'm assuming we're actually going to see Luna because she's shuffling off to
meant
there.
to be meeting
Gao
there.
And so there's that. And pretty much what I said before, I think Fred Johnson's going to be a big player in this episode. I think they're going to have to go to him and negotiate and pick up clues on Marco. And I assume we're going to get shots of Marco looking at a holographic solar system and giggling evilly at his stealth technology asteroids working as intended. That's my predictions on Exodus. And that's our discussion on Season 4. That's our recap on Season 4. Pleasure to talk to you, Rachel, even though having to vent out our frustrations and issues with the season can be a bit tiring and a bit upsetting too, because, in this case, it's not fun to be kind of ripping this show a new one because we've really enjoyed ourselves with it over the last while, but he is hoping things get better. Do you think that it will actually get better? Do you think that perhaps this is a real mid-series sag and then from here it's up again? Because, first season was a bit of a low.
I want it to be.
Well, thank you everyone for listening. You can find us on your social medias of choice under yumyumpod or yumyumpodcast. Rachel, what else do we say when we wrap out the show here, huh? What else is available in the description of the episode?
Links to social media and to the Patreon. And we also include our email address, which is yumyumpod@gmail.com.
Thank you again for letting us all know about it, Rachel. It flowed so much like those slugs' juices, killing us all with how neurotoxic it was. Do we believe that Season 5 will get better? You people out there know, or perhaps you don't. Remember, don't spoil it for us if you are familiar with everything. We're going to go in with our heads held low because of Season 4, and hopefully it will pick us up and make us feel whole again. But until next time, remember that Havelock was supposed to be in this season, but the actor got work elsewhere. Good for him, honestly. I think that's a great thing to hear, but you know what I'd rather be hearing, Rachel? Our end credits music and the Gaunt Belter reminding us when this show used to be fucking freaky with its casting. That guy is not Gaunt. He never looked Gaunt. Why did they credit him as Gaunt? He's the least fucking Thomas Jane's more Gaunt than that guy. Why isn't he called the Gaunt Belter? Either way, we've got to skedaddle, Rachel, or else this Gaunt Belter discussion will go on longer than the recap.
See you then. Well, voila.